Welcome to the village of Molveno in the Italian Dolomites, home of the 2022 XTERRA World Championship. This is the second time XTERRA hosts a race in this venue, but this year was actually the first time as a global event, and as you might probably know, first ever World Champs outside the island of Maui. So if you're not familiar with the course and you're planning to race this event in the future, or you just fancy having a look at what we went through on the 2022 edition, stay with me and I'll tell you all you need to know about the course, both wet and dry, and how I cope with it on race day. Also skip over the less relevant parts so you don't have to watch a 1-hour video. My name is Andres and welcome to this, my first proper XTERRA course review. If you happen to like it, you know what to do: like, comment, subscribe, all the stuff. Let's just get on with it, shall we? Starting right after the first transition, you immediately have two wooden bridges and some cambered curves, which are really nothing to worry about. If you're someone who likes leaving your shoes clipped on the bike, just have in mind you will have about 100 meters to fit your shoes before the first of these bridges. This is the first fast and flat section. You might just occasionally find a random multiple world champion walking around.
Mira que me encuentro por aquí. ¿Qué pasa, macho? ¿Cómo está?
Before the start of the climb, there are a couple of wooden bridges, which I didn't film because I didn't think that'd be relevant. But on race day, on the wet, I actually saw some people crashing at the entrance and exit of both, even despite having a wire mesh over it. Just something to have in mind. The first part of the climb is a mild slope with a fast, hard-packed gravel, which doesn't really get any different in the wet. The path becomes somewhat narrow from time to time, but nothing really to worry about on the technical side. This is a section where you might actually enjoy the landscape, since the terrain is easy and you are not totally destroyed yet. It goes right beside a creek that falls into a fairly deep canyon to the left side. You might also find some short flats and downhills, which will give you a respite from the otherwise constant climb that starts to get ever steeper as you get closer to the road crossing. This is the end of the easy part of the climb, and if it's wet you wouldn't take this line because it will be muddy, and well, there's tarmac right beside. There's a road crossing I didn't film. You can take it as a reference point where the climb starts to get much steeper. Traction is still very good. Sometimes you might find the grass in the middle to be a bit smoother ride, especially when dry. Once you reach this house, it doesn't get any steeper, but it's when mud really starts to come at play. These roots that look totally insignificant when dry get slippery when wet, and you're forced to find a line outside the main path, which might be tricky because it's a bit slanted, as you can see. Some more routes where you can find different lines. Beyond this little descent, you get deeper into the woods and the terrain becomes a bit more technical. On the dry it's a non-issue, but when wet it doesn't drain well, so mud puddles start to appear and you have to decide whether you prefer to go around and avoid them, or just rush through them at the risk of sliding and start collecting mud and clogging your drivetrain, which will eventually happen anyway. And as we transition to my second course check, you can see it's already wet and somewhat muddy, but not nearly as bad as it would get on race day after 800 people have gone through the course several times ridden over every line possible, just shake the soil until it becomes chocolate. You get the picture.
Tía, Rafita. No, te la he compartido. Nada, tío.
As you can see here, the main path starts to become really rough and slippery, and you should take an outside line. But even so, you might start to get into trouble and have to give your bike a little push to the end of some climbs.
¡Ay! Ya se está empezando a empastar.
Quickly hopping onto your bike and clearing the mud out of your cleats start to be frequent, so in my opinion, you need to have good judgment of when to step down and push instead of wasting energy spinning your rear wheel while trying to stay over the saddle.
Se la he devuelto, chiquitín. ¡Ay! Espera, que todavía no he ganado. 1-1.
Good morning, buongiorno, buenos días, sono Gnarly Xterra, Gnarly Xterra di Lago di Xterra, from Spain. And estamos viendo circuitos que están que te caga, porque se ha puesto pastosísimo. El circuito muy rápido, al principio muy seco, muy compactado, y ahora es un pastel de chocolate.
¡Grande, Juanillo!
So we're heading for the last technical climb. I don't think we're gonna make it over the bike. And then we still have to do the two technical descents. Here you need to be aware of some more world champions coming by just before you get to this fire road.
Mira.
Which give you some time to breathe before the last steep technical climb. Before this entrance, it's much smarter to just step off and push. At this very spot is where Sebastian Carabin overtook me on the race, and he didn't ride it, and he did get the fastest bike split, so I believe you can take my word for it. On this dry, it's actually doable, but it makes no sense to even try if wet. It's better to run and carry a bit more speed at the top, so you can easily hop on after it.
Se va a poner peor. Por aquí. Eso se sube andando, pero vaya, totalmente.
Good thing is, after this point, you might actually not have to leave your saddle anymore for the rest of the loop. This last technical climb is certainly not easy. You need to keep looking for the grippiest line, but as you can see, it is possible to ride to the top, and I'm not very skilled, so if I can do it, you probably can as well.
Ahora todavía no es la bajada Pollua.
You still have to ride up a very steep concrete road, and on race day this was probably one of the worst moments for me personally, because you were carrying mud from the previous section all over your bike, but you aren't riding nearly fast enough to clear it. So you are easily dragging 3 or 4 kilos overweight to the top of the climb, which is actually the highest part of the course. Yeah man, we finally made it. This is also the moment where the real fun begins. You start the first proper descent of the course, which they call the Blade Runner. And apart from this slow entry turn, it's all very fast rolling, well designed trail when you can easily carry good speed.
Aquí están los que hay.
berms are pretty tall, so it gives you a lot of confidence even if it's wet. The soil is hard packed without any soft bumps, and grip is very good throughout. The only thing you need to be aware of are the jumps will catapult you quite high if you go fast enough, but all of them are tabletops and have straight tapered landings, so unless you completely fly over the reception ramp, you can make small mistakes and still be fine. I didn't have any experience whatsoever in this bike park style trails, but doing it for the first time, it felt intuitive nonetheless.
Esperamos. Nada. Tío, he volado más que ayer. Por eso.
After leaving these two sections of flow trails, you'll come into the most difficult descent of the course, and where I think most people struggle during the actual race. It's a much slower and bumpier trail where there's not always a clear good line. If wet, it's very muddy, and being a slow ride, your tires won't clear the mud. You'll eventually start sliding all over the place. If you choose to fit big knob tires, they'll start to pay dividends here, and they might actually help you gain a bit of time. I was using specialized fast track tires, both front and rear, and while far from ideal, they were not too bad really. And on the actual race, there were a couple of spots where I had to unclip a foot and sort of hard walk for a while, but it didn't feel like I was losing too much time. In hindsight, would I have been better off with thick knob tires for this descent? For sure, but taking the whole climb into account, it might actually not be worth the extra weight.
Cuidado aquí que estamos embarrados. Qué buena. Cuidado. Voy ahí. A ver de por fuera. No, esto lo hago yo así. Ya.
Now let's have a look at the same trail when it's dry. And as you can see, it becomes so much easier. Still fairly technical with the tight turns and the rocky sections, but again, nothing to worry about. You can try different lines, and even the roots and rocks won't make you lose grip. After this section, there's a concrete steep downhill where you can go very fast if you stay off the brakes. It'll help you clear of the mud, but beware of the trail ahead to the left side. You'll have to hit the brakes quite hard and make sure you nail the entrance. This short trail is actually quite tricky because the grippy part is very narrow and you probably won't be able to keep control over the loose stones if you miss it. So overall, maybe 7 to 10 minutes for the whole descent, depending on the conditions. After this, you'll come to the village streets without any major difficulty, except for maybe a short stair section. Once you get closer to the lake, you'll have to do some wooden jumps and cambers, some of which have a slower beeline before the transition area. And after it, you'll go over the 2 bridges we did at the beginning of the loop, marking the start of the second lap. My overall conclusion about the course is definitely very positive. In the best of conditions, it's still very hard with over 1,000-meter climb over 2 laps, and the descents are still challenging enough to help the most skilled riders make a difference, yet not being too difficult for the slower, less skilled riders to be over the bike most of the time. On the wet is of course a different story. The second part of the climbs becomes much slower and I can see many riders getting desperate with the mud. It's easily 20 minutes slower for the top guys, maybe up to 1 hour slower if you really struggle with wet conditions. Tough, challenging, and most of all, huge fun. 100% worthy of a World Championship. And last but not least, I just want to let you know this review is based on my personal experience, which might have been different than yours if you were here last October, or if you attend to the event over the following editions. So if you have any input and you'd like to share your experience, please do so in the comments. Alright everyone, that's gonna be it from my side. I hope you guys enjoyed it, learned a thing or two. We will publish a full documentary about the event, hopefully soon enough. And while this is generally a Spanish channel, we will keep on publishing in English as well if you guys appreciate it. So thank you very much for watching and see you next time.